The Bible reminds us in Philippians 4:6 that in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, we are invited to present our requests to God. That invitation matters because life brings many moments when people feel unsure, tired, or overwhelmed. Every day comes with decisions to make, problems to solve, and responsibilities to carry. Some of those concerns are easy to talk about. Others stay quietly in the heart. Worries can build slowly. They may come from finances, relationships, health, or the future. Sometimes they show up without warning and stay longer than expected. They can take away peace and leave people feeling worn down. Many try to handle these challenges on their own. They think harder, work longer, and push forward, hoping effort alone will bring answers. But there are times when no amount of effort seems to be enough. That is when Scripture gently reminds us who God is. The Bible teaches that God remains in control, even when circumstances feel uncertain. His power is not limited by what people see or understand. Jeremiah 32:17 tells us that nothing is too hard for the Lord. And Luke 1:37 reminds us that nothing is impossible with God. These truths are not just ideas. They are shown through real stories of real people in Scripture. One example is Solomon. When God invited him to ask for anything, Solomon did not ask for wealth or long life. Instead, he asked for wisdom. According to 1 Kings 3, God was pleased with that request and gave him understanding beyond measure. That wisdom changed how Solomon lived and led. People traveled from far away to hear his insight. His story shows that God responds when requests are made with humility and trust. Another story comes from Hannah. She carried deep sadness because she longed for a child and did not have one. Her pain was personal and heavy. She went to the temple and poured out her heart before God. Scripture tells us that God heard her prayer. In time, he answered by giving her a son named Samuel, who would grow up to serve God and guide his people. As written in 1 Samuel 1:27, Hannah later said, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him." Her story reminds us that God listens carefully, even when prayers come from a place of deep emotion. Then there is the Apostle Paul. Paul experienced a struggle he wanted removed from his life. 3 times he asked God to take it away. God did not remove it, but he did respond. In 2 Corinthians 12:9, God tells Paul that his grace is sufficient and that his power is made perfect in weakness. Instead of changing the situation, God gave Paul strength to endure it. That response teaches an important lesson. Sometimes God answers prayer by changing circumstances. Other times, he answers by giving strength, patience, or grace to walk through them. Both are expressions of his care. These stories remind us that prayer is never wasted. God hears every word. He understands every concern. Sometimes the answer comes quickly. Other times, it comes slowly. And sometimes, the answer looks different than expected. Still, Scripture assures us that God is always working. Ephesians 3:20 tells us that God is able to do far more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power at work within us. That means his plans are often bigger and wiser than what we can see. The Bible also points to God's generosity through his greatest gift. Romans 8:32 asks a powerful question. If God did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also graciously give us all things? That question builds confidence. It encourages trust. Jesus himself spoke often about prayer. He taught it as something simple and sincere. In Matthew 7:7-8, he said to ask, seek, and knock. He explained that those who ask receive, those who seek find, and doors are open to those who knock. This teaching does not promise that answers will always come immediately, but it does promise that God is attentive. Waiting can still be difficult. There are moments when doubt appears, times when people wonder if their prayers are being heard. The Bible speaks to that concern as well. 1 John 5:14-15 says that if we ask anything according to God's will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, we can be confident that our prayers matter. That confidence brings peace. Philippians 4:7 describes a peace that goes beyond understanding. It guards hearts and minds, even when situations remain unresolved. Over time, prayer begins to change perspective. It becomes less about urgency and more about trust, less about control and more about relationship. Another reminder comes from Psalm 37:4, which says that when people delight themselves in the Lord, their desires begin to align with His purposes. As trust grows, prayers often change. They become simpler. Gratitude becomes more present. Faith becomes steadier. This does not mean challenges disappear. It means they are no longer carried alone. Scripture invites people to bring every burden to God. Psalm 55:22 encourages believers to cast their burdens on the Lord, trusting that He will sustain them. No concern is too small. No situation is too complicated. God's care is constant. Life may still include financial pressure, health struggles, broken relationships, or seasons of spiritual dryness, but faith reminds us that God remains near through it all. He prepares what is needed at the right time. He strengthens when strength runs low. He provides peace even while waiting. Prayer becomes less about finding perfect words and more about honest connection. It becomes a place of rest rather than pressure. The Bible continues to point people back to trust, back to gratitude, back to hope. Faith does not remove every difficulty, but it changes how those difficulties are faced. It anchors the heart in something unchanging. And that steady confidence, quiet, patient, and trusting, is one of the greatest gifts prayer brings.